do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks. You see, KYJ, things have changed just a little bit since the last time you were here.
I think you should see your oculus. Nothing wrong with my feet. I'm talking about your eyes.
I can even make my ass do tricks. Watch this.
You have any idea where you are? You're in the jungle, baby. This is WCW. That's right. Hold on.
For over 10 years, the world's #1 source for professional wrestling news and information. And once again, here's your hosts, Damian Nelson, Frank Cosentino, and the man they call Meathead. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. We're live Tuesday, December 22nd, the Christmas spirit. All up and down the streets of Wisconsin Avenue here from our downtown Milwaukee studios. Frank Cosentino, David Hero, the man they call Meathead, and Damian Nelson here on what will be a very stacked show. Thank you for tuning in wherever you may be, including here in southeastern Wisconsin and all over the world at ESPNMilwaukee.com and at PWRshow.com. Our guest tonight, gentlemen, in just a few minutes, Shawn Daivari, formerly Sheik Abdul-Bashir of TNA Wrestling. He lost the Feast and Fired matchup, getting the briefcase to be fired, but there's much more to it than that, and Shawn's going to tell you the whole story here tonight in just a few minutes on the Pro Wrestling Report. We're also going to review TNA's Final Resolution pay-per-view, talk a little bit about the big story of last week, Dave Hero, Bret Hart's return to World Wrestling Entertainment, and also Impact and WWE Raw thoughts from last year. You can join us on the phone lines. The number here locally is 276-ESPN, or all over the world at 1-800-990-ESPN. The conversation continues throughout the broadcast at PWRshow.com in the chatmosphere, where you can go ahead and chat with us live during the 2-hour-long broadcast of the Pro Wrestling Report. And let's not waste any time and go right to the phones. Let's go out to Los Angeles, California. We've got Chris, who wants to talk a little bit about Sheamus on line one.
Hey, what's up, guys? I just had a question about Sheamus, and I remember on one of you guys' recent primetime shows, you guys were saying, why are the fans upset that Sheamus is champion? But I'm just like, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't had any memorable moments, no memorable matches. He's been with the company for 3 months, and I was just surprised that you guys were saying that, why are the fans upset? They want to change. But it's like he hasn't done anything.
So you think Sheamus, should have been like Shelton Benjamin, just hanging around for a year or so, or Dolph Ziggler and just hanging around for 6 months?
Well, the sad thing is that they don't really do memorable things with guys anymore. You remember when Austin was coming up? He had the famous promo at King of the Ring. He had the amazing match with Bret Hart. And this was all before he became champion. Nowadays, guys just kind of hang around, do nothing, and then boom, they get shot into the main event role, and it's like, so that's kind of how it's been. But I mean, they could have had him do something. They could have had him feud with, somebody.
But okay, who have they elevated for him to feud with? I mean, right now what they did is they took a guy.
MVP.
Okay, and that happened on Raw last night.
Yeah, but he's already champion now.
But
so now it's like, okay, he's already champion, so you can't really, go back and do anything. He's already champion. That's already kind of been ruined, and it's like the build-up to him being a mega star is, now you can't do it. So the fans are like, should we, why should we cheer for him? Why should we boo him? He hasn't done anything to make us hate him. He hasn't done anything to make us love him.
Okay, wait. I'm sorry. What was your name, Chris?
Yes.
Chris, what you just mentioned that you don't like him as champion right now?
No, I think that he hasn't done anything memorable. He hasn't done anything significant to warrant emotion and to warrant, I care about this guy.
Okay, and your point is valid, but let's say you go to a match in Los Angeles, and he comes out. Are you upset that he's champion? and you'll just kind of just sit on your hands? Or are you upset that he's champion and you're going to boo him because he doesn't deserve it?
I'm just going to sit there and just not really care. I mean,
Chris, I got to challenge you on that. It's easy to sit here right now, not in the moment, and say that. There's only one fan I've ever seen actually do what should be done if you disagree with something happening in wrestling, and that was on an episode of TNA Impact years ago. Jared was in the ring cutting a promo, and a fan dead center, hard camera side, turned his back and crossed his arms. What we don't sometimes understand in wrestling, that any reaction is a good reaction. You've heard the term bad press is good press. As long as someone's talking about it or reacting to it, in general, it's viewed as a favorable response.
But don't you think that they need to set themselves up for long-term success with these guys?
Absolutely.
And make them memorable?
Absolutely.
Like, for example, a champion like Shawn Michaels, a champion like Austin, a champion like The Rock, or even John Cena, these guys are memorable. They can last for decades. A guy like Sheamus, who gets thrusted into the main event role with no build-up, no memorable moments, no memorable promos or matches or feuds or programs or anything, who gets thrusted, guys like that tend to burn out.
Okay.
Because it's just, like Goldberg. He was thrusted. He had his run. He burned
Goldberg
out.
wasn't thrusted, though. Goldberg was a 2-year build-up with that streak. I mean, that was something that continuously went on. Yeah,
100-0 streak.
Well, he wasn't at 100 by the time he won the belt, but I mean, he obviously.
But what was memorable about Goldberg?
There wasn't anything memorable about Goldberg except for the fact that he dominated everybody.
You remember seeing a guy that looked similarly to him?
But anybody can do that. Anybody can dominate and beat a bunch of guys. Fans are smarter now. We all know that it's entertainment, good entertainment.
Not everyone does. You got to remember that the IWC, the Internet Wrestling community, the fans, the smart fans, such as yourself and such as us and such as almost everyone else that listens to this program, isn't the main core audience that WWE has. They still have a mass chunk of their audience that doesn't
Casual fly-by-night fans. Casual fly-by-night, that's true. But at the same time, fans just get it now. I think the casual fans understand wrestling more than they did in the 70s and 80s and even the 90s. They understand that the business is entertainment, and bad entertainment is just bad entertainment. So if they're not getting the memorable promos and moments and stuff like that, they're not really going to care. That's why a guy like Goldberg I don't think would work today, because what is that? Just coming out beating a guy over and over and over again. It's like say something, do something new,
right.
or something memorable.
Okay, so did you watch the TLC match? Or highlights?
No, I haven't. I haven't watched. I mean, I've been keeping up with everything, but I've been so, disappointed, with the product lately that I've just kind of not really been listening to the, watching Raw or ordering the pay-per-views or anything.
Well, then I guess I won't ask the question, because the thing that the fans wanted was something different, something new. We've got it in Sheamus winning at TLC, which was a shock to a lot of people, except one guy that's sitting next to me. And now there's no build-up.
But don't you think that the fans didn't want? Okay, the fans want something new, but don't you think they would have wanted something done the right way?
But Chris, listen to this. Okay, fine. Sheamus didn't do anything memorable until he became WWE champion, but he has become WWE champion. That was his impact. That was his splash. That was his introduction. That's what put him on the radar of the fans. Whether it's right or wrong, that was the big moment.
But does that work? In today's world of professional wrestling, does that work? Just giving a guy a belt with like the top belt in the company with so much prestige and history, giving a guy a belt like that hasn't done, does that work? And will he be able to have long-term success? I mean, right now, they need guys that are going to be able to go for like 10, 15 years. They need to make a new John Cena, a new Randy Orton, a new Batista.
And the only way they're going to find out if guys can do that is by putting them in those spots right now, because right now they haven't elevated anybody else enough to make them a bigger star. Sheamus is going to be fine. It's going to take him some time. Eventually the fans are going to embrace him as the monster heel, and that's all going to start next week. when he beats John Cena again.
Another bold prediction by David Hero.
And devastatingly
actually
too.
should at this point. Chris out on the West Coast, thank you very much for that call. We've got Glenn in Orlando and Anthony in California on hold. But when we come back, Glenn and Anthony, call back later. When we come back, our guest is Shawn Daivari, formerly known as Sheikh Abdul-Bashir in TNA Wrestling. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Join the 540
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Tuesday night, December 22nd. Thank you for joining us wherever you may be doing so. And Damian Nelson here with a man they call Meathead, The Cause, and David Hero. As we said at the top of the program, we've got a guest this week who has a lot to say, I'm sure, especially after the results of Final Resolution on pay-per-view from TNA this past Sunday night. Let's now go to our guest, Shawn Daivari. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey, Shawn.
Shawn, we're great. I guess we'll start off by firstly, obviously, thank you for coming on the show. But a lot of controversy out there, a lot of different reports from the quote-unquote wrestling journalists as to the circumstances surrounding your departure from TNA Wrestling. So why don't you go ahead and clear that up right now, tell the truth from the horse's mouth. What happened? What led to you getting that fired briefcase on Sunday at Final Resolution?
I just grabbed the wrong one. I was going for the world title. I don't know what I was thinking.
But you are truly no longer with the company.
Yeah, no, I'm not working for TNA anymore. I'm going to try some other stuff and somewhere international. But I don't think it was one of those situations where like either party have a bad taste in their mouth and don't want to work with each other again in the future. I think that option's always on the table. Should like it's almost like working somewhere is kind of like a relationship. Sometimes people just stay in a place and they rot to death, just kind of like a miserable marriage or something. But like I've always tried to prevent that wherever I've been in any sort of wrestling company or promotion. And at this time, it just wasn't a good fit for us to work together. But that doesn't mean 3 months from now when things change, or 3 years from now, or 30 years from now, that we would be opposed to doing business together in the future.
So you're just feeling stagnant. That's all. Looking for something new, something fresh.
Well, yeah, I mean, anyone that knows me, I'm so ADD with that kind of stuff. People know that. I get so crazy when I'm not doing much of anything or too much of the same place at one time. But as much as it sucks to not work in TNA anymore, because like I really, really get along with all the talent. Like we're really close friends and stuff. Like I am very excited to. I've never worked full time in Mexico before. That's kind of an option that's on my plate right now, and I've done some stuff in and out of Puerto Rico, like with major companies. Like I did some stuff in Puerto Rico, like WWE and stuff. But I got another option coming up to go wrestle in Puerto Rico for a Puerto Rican, wrestling promotion, which would be really cool. And then there's some new stuff starting up in Japan. Like Japan, I was there in early 2008, I think, and like so much has changed with the landscape over there. With all Japan business is picking up. Noah's business is splitting into like two different companies. It looks like Hustle's closed down. A new company called Smash is opening up. So like it's kind of like a whole new environment over there too. So I'm really excited to try some different things around the world and see what ends up working out best for me.
Shawn, I think a lot of people are very surprised at the time in which you chose to reach that mutual agreement with TNA Wrestling to depart the company. TNA Wrestling, some say, is getting ready to have their biggest moment with Hulk Hogan coming in just a couple of weeks on Impact. What is the overall atmosphere right now in TNA Wrestling? Is there direction? Because there's a lot of reports out there as well saying that things are just sort of in a holding pattern until Hogan comes on board in just 2 weeks on Impact on Monday night.
I think everybody just kind of like wait and see. Like nobody knows because like it's brand new territory for everyone in that company. Like no one that I don't want to say no one's worked with Hogan, but I mean like Hogan's never worked in TNA before, so that's like a new kind of exponential. We're kind of look and see. Going head to head with WWF, we've never done. Going head to head on the Monday night, we've never done. There's a bunch of things that we're trying to like. You can only guess and kind of speculate, but you're never going to know. Like you could see both sides of the spectrum in every scenario. I could see Hogan being a huge success. I could see it being a huge flop. I could see the Monday Night Experiment being a huge success. I could see it being a huge flop. Like there's so many variables in this equation that you really can't tell. But I think the general feeling is positive. I think everybody's excited and looking forward to it. But the the outcome is just one of those things. Like, you're gonna have to wait and see. I don't think TNA, WWE, Hulk Hogan, anybody knows what's gonna happen. We're just kind of it's really there's no result in this that's going to be a success or failure. It's just really just going to go out there and see what happens.
Having worked in both WWE and TNA over the course of the last few years, compare the atmosphere in the two companies.
It's kind of the same to me. I don't know. Like, I've never been. I can't explain. I mean, anywhere I've been, I've just kind of shown up and done my job. That's always, been something that's been like, people have told me that's the best quality about me, and other people have told me that's the worst quality about me. So like any locker room or any wrestling company I work for, I just kind of show up and say, what am I doing today? And say, okay, and then I do it to the best of my ability, and that's it. And for some people that's enough. For some people that's not enough. But I never let anything else either influence affect me too much. So maybe that's why things don't ever seem that different to me. Some people say they see one locker room, the other locker room is night and day. I really didn't see that way. I had people I liked with and I liked working with. In some places I had some people I didn't like working with. And then, in other companies the same thing. There's people I like working with and people I didn't like working with. But the only thing that stayed the same was I always just showed up and did my job to the best of my ability.
Speaking with Shawn Daivari on the Pro Wrestling Report, 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Shawn, is there a wrestler in TNA or for WWE, that matter, that you'd still like to get into the ring with that you think the fans would enjoy?
That I haven't already, or
that you haven't already?
Oh man, there's a lot of new guys at WWE that I don't know. We actually had an opportunity to hang out in Orlando. I guess we did like a TV. No, we did our pay-per-view the same night they did their TV taping, and even though I wrestled there last in 2008 or end of 2007 is the beginning of 2008, and there was so many faces of people that I had no idea who they were. It's like, a bunch of the guys I don't know who they are, so I don't know who I click with. I could tell you there's a lot of guys that I have wrestled with that I wish I could do again or do so more properly. Like somebody that for my first 4 months I think with TNA, I wrestled AJ Styles almost every night on the house shows. And that was someone that we've never been able to have a TV match, and that was something I'd like to do was have a TV match or a pay-per-view match with AJ, because house shows are a completely different animal, and TV stuff, that was something like a TNA I always want to do, or even I'm trying to think who's in WWE right now that I haven't worked with.
Sheamus.
Yeah, he's someone that I've never even met him, we've never even met, so it would be interesting to see. I haven't seen much of what he's done, but I'm sure if we did have some sort of chemistry, that's the thing. I look for chemistry. I always look for people I think I click with, and those are the guys I want to work, because it's just kind of you raise your own personal bar of what you expect out of yourself.
Shawn, one of the big debates that's been going on in wrestling in the past few weeks is now that Sheamus beat John Cena for the title, a lot of the fans feel that he got the belt too quickly, that he didn't pay his dues or do anything memorable. Do you think that what they're doing with a guy like Sheamus can hurt wrestling, or does it help create stars a little bit quicker?
No, I don't think it hurts things. I'm not too familiar with the angle of the program, but when you're a hot babyface like John Cena is, or even like Hulk Hogan was or Steve Austin was, you're always going to need to feed them heels. That's just a given. That's how a babyface stays hot. But eventually you run out of heels and you have to start making some. So if they have to put the belt on a guy when he's brand new just to make him so a hot babyface can beat him, that's just great for business, because all it does is help keep, for example, I'm sure there'll be some point in time where John will probably get the belt back off of him, and all it does is it keeps John Cena fresh by having heels for him to beat. But in the meantime, Sheamus is going to get more over and become a more bigger star, made as a bigger deal, even in losing to John Cena, just by being in that same realm or same environment with him. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's like a win-win situation for both guys.
Shawn, you were part of TNA's house show here in Racine, Wisconsin, just a couple of months ago. A very good house show, but there's been a lot of conflicting reports on TNA's house show business, to be honest with you, across the country, and a lot of people making a lot of noise about the numbers that are drawn at those house shows. What perspective can you share with the world as to the house show business for TNA and the expectation of what that business should be?
Well, the house shows, I don't think it's any secret that they're not selling out or packing buildings the way they'd like to. I think that's pretty much a given that it's not like a secret deal that we're trying to hide from people or anything. But it's kind of funny that I think it's a better show than our TV show was. I really think, like, I've heard a lot of people say, like, you know, oh, that wasn't the best episode of TV or we didn't like it. But I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, like, man, that TNA house show sucked. Like, we have, like, really, really good house shows because they book, you know, kind of the best talent and they give them a good amount of time, and then there's a bunch of little bells and whistles that you don't, you know, without the restrictions of, you know, TV times and commercial spots and, like, you know, getting a TV production moving. Without any of those restrictions, a lot of other bells and whistles that people have time to do and play around with that people wouldn't get that experience by watching the show on TV.
And a very interactive experience as well, something that you really don't get from major wrestling organizations with the meet and greets and the backstage passes and whatnot. Very unique experience.
And we can attest, all four of us in the room here, we're at this show. The building was hot. I mean, it doesn't matter what the number was in there. I mean, every fan was into it all show long.
Yeah, and that seems to, like I said, that seems to happen anywhere. You know, regardless of what your show is, if it's WWE or TNA or Ring of Honor or whatever, you're always going to have, you know, some episodes of TV are going to be good, some are going to be not so good, and some are going to be bad. But, like, I've never heard anyone ever say, like, man, that house show sucks. Like, anytime fans come to our shows, they love them, which is, I wish we can get a better promotional machine behind it, or, you know, I wish there was something else they could do to make the house shows more aware to the public so people show up to them. And actually, you know, the funny thing, too, is that when we did a house show loop through Minnesota, I think it might have been like a little bit before, a little bit after that same Wisconsin. You know, I used to live in Minnesota, and the marketing and PR people called me and said, hey, this is all the stuff we're doing in Minnesota. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? And everything they did was great. I didn't see anything that said, like, oh, this is a waste of money, or you should be pumping money here and money not there. Like, everything looked okay to me. I don't know whether or not they did it all, but what they planned on doing looked great. So I guess I really don't know what the missing link is that's not translating from the television numbers in the specific markets to house show attendance.
You know, Shawn, I'm not too sure how many people know this, but you spend a lot of your time in the Milwaukee area, Chicago, Minneapolis area, working the indies. What's it like going from the Knights of Columbus in front of 75 people to all of a sudden you're at WrestleMania getting bumped around by Hulk Hogan?
You know, it was one of those things, like, you never really get a chance to stop and think about it, because, like, there's a lot of cool things that, like, I realize they were cool things when, like, someone like you just brings it up or someone else tells me about it. Because, like, that deal, like, for example, that thing we did with Hulk Hogan was cool, which happened, well, I imagine, I guess it'd be a Sunday because it was WrestleMania. And before you even have time to digest it, you're like, shoot, I got to get ready for TV tomorrow. We got Raw. And then, you know, after WrestleMania, it's like, oh, we got the WrestleMania Revenge Tour. I'm going to Europe in 2 days. And then, like, by the time you get done with Europe, you're like, oh, crap, I gotta be at TV again on Monday. And then you're like, oh, shoot, pay-per-views on Sunday. And it's like, things go by you so fast, you never really get a chance to think about, oh, hey, that was something kind of cool. And so, like I said, that's what you just bring it up, or someone says, hey, what was it like to wrestle Hulk Hogan? You go, oh, yeah, that was actually kind of cool.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. Shawn Daivari is our guest right now. Shawn, we're going to take a time out, but when we come back, we want to talk to you about that heavily reported on Sunday night party between WWE and TNA wrestlers in Orlando last week, and also your favorite and least favorite thing about both WWE and TNA. We'll be right back in just a few moments. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Tuesday, December 22nd. Damian Nelson, David Hero, The Cause, and the man named Carl Meathead, along with our guest this week, Shawn Daivari. You know, I got to say, I think I prefer this TNA music to the WWE music. You could almost get down to this in the club. 50 Cent, you know. Anyway, Shawn Daivari, welcome back to the show. As we said before we took that break, you know, there's a lot of buzz out there, a lot of people reporting on, which you sort of knew was going to happen before it even happened, this party between WWE and TNA talents in Orlando after the pay-per-view and the SmackDown taping this past Sunday. Were you in attendance?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if maybe we're talking about two different things, but, like, we went to a bar after the show that, you know, both crews were at, but at last call or 2 a.m., whenever it was, when the bar closed down, I went back to my hotel room. I don't know if there was another party or something. Well, no, we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, that's the one that a lot of the sites have taken up on. You know, Dixie Carter was talking to WWE talents at a bar at a party after the events from the wrestlers. Now, it's sort of a given that everybody's going to hang out because a lot of people are friends between both companies, but people are making a lot of noise out of this. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't imagine anything of note happened there, but any insight that you want to share, or was there any newsworthy events?
Not that I saw. I mean, like, it was just kind of like seeing like friends you haven't seen in a while. Like Hurricane and Matt and stuff were there, and we just kind of chit chatted a bit. And like I did see Dixie Pokerhead in there. She said hi to a few people. Like Ron Killings and Loki were there. Who both they all used to work together. So they said hi and chit chatted a bit. And then I mean, I was kind of looking at it, and I didn't realize how many times like so many people have crossed paths and stuff. Like
right.
There's a bunch of people that like I knew from WWE that I was saying hi to, and then there's a people like I never met Ron Killings before. That was the first time I met him, and then there was a bunch of people that I was with from the TNA show that they were best friends and knew each other for years and years. So it was kind of like I was like, oh man, I completely forgot that so many people had so many different careers in so many different places, and there never seemed to be like one person that was on a link, like somebody that didn't know somebody or someone or somewhere in the group.
Yeah, and being on the road as much as you guys are in both companies, I couldn't imagine there's those chances that exist to actually see your friends very often.
Yeah, not too often. I mean, I see some of my friends relative. There's a lot of wrestlers that live in Houston, so I see like guys like Shelton and Shad, the big black guy from Crime Time and stuff. Like we see each other on like a semi-regular basis, or we catch each other at the airport here and there just because we're flying on the same flights. Or Hernandez, I see Hernandez around town all the time because we all live in Houston, and you bump into people here and there. Like I saw this was before he started with TNA, but when D-Lo was with WWE like last year sometime, like we were on the same flight or bumped into each other at the airport in New Jersey. I think like we were going in different directions, but just we happened to cross paths in New Jersey, and we knew each other from like independent shows that we'd done together before.
And speaking of independent, Shawn, you are also available for independent bookings. Is that correct? Conventions?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny you should mention that.
What about bar mitzvahs? Dave's always trying to get somebody at a bar mitzvah.
Yeah, I've always been available. That was the thing I find so funny is like in the last couple of days, I've gotten so many like emails and phone calls of people asking if they were, if they could book me or use me for an independent show, and like. With my contract in TNA, the whole time I had the availability to do indies. It's not like I'm like newfound talent that's available to do stuff, but I don't know. I guess maybe some people assume that if you work for TNA, or wherever. I mean, I know different people's contracts are different, but at least mine was. Even though I work with TNA, I was still available to do independent stuff. So, yeah, if anyone wants to get a hold of me, they can go through my website, or Dave Hero's a guy that I work with a bit. They can contact him. It's probably would be a lot more efficient and quickly to call him than go through me personally, because I take forever with things. I'm not very good at following up.
Shawn, your most favorite thing about WWE, and conversely, your least favorite thing about your time in WWE?
Well, it's kind of the same thing, but like my favorite thing about WWE is when I was used well. When you would show up to work and like you knew you were figured into the puzzle. And then on the flip side of that, the least thing was when you showed up for work and you weren't figured into the puzzle. They were just kind of like really polarizing opposites where, like, one could make you feel so good and you're like, wow, I can't believe the biggest wrestling company in the planet has figured me into their equation of how they're going to run their television shows, house shows, pay-per-views, make money. I can't believe I'm figured into that. And then on the flip side of that is, like, when you show up for work and, like, you're not even on the, they have the pay sheet where they pay you and, like, you're not even on there. Because they didn't know you were coming in, like you were that insignificant that they forgot they bought you a plane ticket. Like that can like really crush your I don't want to say your ego. It's more like your feelings. Maybe your feelings are hurt. You're like, man, how did I let myself fall down the ladder so far? And I'm sure you're going to just ask the same thing about TNA, and it was the exact same thing. Like in TNA, there's like at one point in time, like you're used so well. It's like I remember we did a loop through Canada. It was like a 7-day loop, and out of like the 5 of the 7 days. I was in the main event on all the shows, and then probably 2 or 3 months later, it's like same deal when you show up for TV, and they're like, oh, you're not even on the show.
When you said that, you were being used in the WWE, you had a hell of a run there. I mean, you had Hulk Hogan, you had Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, Undertaker. I mean, when you think of the who's who in wrestling, those 4 have got to be in the top 10.
Kurt, because he was running with Kurt for a while, too.
And Kurt Angle, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of guys. Kurt, we did a deal with, like, Steve Austin when he came back to one show. We did a Piper's Pit with Hot Rod when he came in for a show. Like, Jericho, Benoit at the time were really hot. Got to work with them. Like, We did like I don't know what kind of language. We did a boatload of dark matches with like Batista and stuff. Like, there's a lot of things that like and maybe that's a lot of people that have been around the business have told me this is maybe why I get so let down so quickly when I'm not doing much of anything. I think I have been spoiled that I got to do so much good stuff so quick, and it's like sometimes it takes people, not to even say I'm remotely close or even in the same ballpark as Steve Austin, but Stone Cold said he never did anything of importance until he was about 33, and he was already at that point 9-10 years wrestling full time, and it's like my first 4 months wrestling full time. It's like I had a who's who of different people I got to work with. So now it's I started around 2005, I guess. So even though I've been wrestling for about 10 years, I've really only had about 4 years of full-time, television wrestling. So it's like I said, if most guys are getting their first big break about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years in, it just seems like a lot of this comes to me pretty soon. So maybe I just have the rest of my career to go down. I might have peaked already. Or who knows, maybe if I keep shuffling the deck, eventually something will end up, skyrocketing again.
So we turn a new calendar year, and what would be best case scenario for Shawn Daivari in 2010?
Well, right now the two things on my mind, top priority, are WWE. I haven't really extensively reached out to either place, but I think after the holidays and after Christmas, I'm really going to try and make a serious contact or serious effort of trying to land full-time work with either. Mexico's on fire right now with when you think about it too, it's such a small country, and when you consider the entire population and the type of economy they have, it's amazing that they're doing 10,000 to 20,000 seats every night in the same towns every month. Mm-hmm. So it's man, could you imagine if wrestling is that hot over there right now? There's got to be some way, shape, or form that I could capitalize on that, or my character would be able to fit into an equation there.
Yeah.
And the other option would be, I'd hope to try and get my foot back in the door with WWE again. And that's always going to be the biggest show. Regardless of what anyone tells you, it is the show. And the only people I'll say otherwise are people that have never been there.
And you could actually go along the same route that you said before. All these new guys that you met, and that never seen before, are all new guys to work with. Yeah, and like I said, more or less, it's whether or not they need you or want you. Right around this time, around Royal Rumble time through WrestleMania, nothing really happens of much significant and everything. WWE's calendar year usually kicks off around WrestleMania. So between now and from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, things kind of already loosely laid out for exactly what's going to happen. So now it's probably not even the best time to approach them or talk to them or anything. But like I said, maybe after the holidays or something, I'll try and get in touch with them and see if there's any interest in doing some business with me again. And hopefully if there is, I can go back there. And if not, like I said, there's still, right now, Mexico is kind of high. If it's not, if WWE's number one, Mexico's number two, or vice versa. If Mexico's number one, WWE's number two.
I can definitely see Shawn Daivari down in Mexico City tearing it up with Sean Waltman.
Yeah, man, I watched, we get in Houston, we have a couple Spanish channels that are just, free broadcast television, and AAA Wrestling's on there a lot. And I like watching that show. I really, really feel like I could get my foot in the door really well, or not get my foot in the door, but if they bring me in and have me do stuff, I really, really think that I could do some good business down there. Just seeing the way that some of the heels work and how they get over, and knowing what I do and what I could bring to the table, I really think that I could do some good business with some good baby faces down there.
All right. Well, Shawn, very insightful conversation. We appreciate you giving us the opportunity to speak to you and get a little bit more insight as to what we saw last Sunday at Final Resolution on pay-per-view. Best of luck to you. Thanks for coming on the program. We are going to move right along now and continue soliciting your phone calls out there all over the world. The number 276-ESPN, or all over the world, 1-800-990-ESPN. Remember, the conversation continues in the chatmosphere at pwrshow.com. When we come back, we're going to be talking about last Sunday's TNA Final Resolution pay-per-view, Bret Hart's return to WWE, our thoughts on WWE Raw and TNA Impact, and you certainly want to hear that. All that and so much more coming up next on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN.
Frank's dancing. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com, and PWRshow.com.
Did the polka dot give me away?
We're live Tuesday, December 22nd, 2009. Thank you very much for tuning in. A special thanks to our guest, Shawn Daivari. Always good, insightful conversation with him, and really got a good idea of where his mind is as far as what his future plans are going to be in this business, and we wish him the best of luck going forward, and hopefully once he finds his way, wherever that way is, we'll go ahead and have him on the program again.
You know, I've talked to others in the business, you know, in the past 48 hours after he got, you know, the pink slip at the pay-per-view. And
he grabbed the wrong case.
Everyone that I've talked to has said Shawn Daivari is a smart guy. And no matter where he ends up, he's going to do well. If it's in wrestling, if it's in business, no matter what it's going to be, you know, he always lands on his feet.
Well, and you got to remember that here's their opportunity from an athletic standpoint. You know, that window's only so many years. And he still has that athletic opportunity to do that. So whether he goes back to WWE or wrestles in Mexico, he's still a talent.
The fans out there.
No, go ahead, Damon.
Fans out there love him, too. A couple of comments on our Twitter account, and our Twitter username is PWR Show. MK Johnson said, listening to Daivari on PWR, I always thought this guy was great. Cub Fan 2240 says, wow, I really didn't know anything about Daivari until that interview. Thanks for the insight. Great show so far. So Daivari's marketable.
It's going to continue to be great.
We're on 24 hours. Yeah, another hour and 12 minutes to deliver the product.
Thank you for the show so far. He enjoys the rest of the show, but, you know, so far he can only give an honest opinion about what he's heard.
So thank you to Daivari for coming on, and that's the third, David, this year. We had Mr. Kennedy, Ken Anderson, on. He was first interview since his WWE release was on this program. Road Dogg, Jesse James, first interview after he got released was on this program, or after he left the company was on this program. And now Shawn Daivari, giving us the opportunity to speak to him before anyone else. He cleared up there's a lot of rumors out there. You know, people are talking about it was his pay, and it was this, it was that, the other thing. Cleared up what basically the circumstances behind his departure from TNA Wrestling.
You know, and it's unfortunate too, Damian, because the case that he probably would have went for would have been the X Division case. But at least for Damian Nelson, the next big thing, Rob Terry in 2010 is going to get an X Division shot.
You can call us, the number 276-ESPN, or all over the world at 1-800-990-ESPN. The conversation continues in the chatmosphere at PWRshow.com. Let's go to Glenn in Orlando, Florida. Glenn, thank you for your patience, and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey, guys. How you been?
Hey, Glenn.
I have a question for you guys about Triple H, and I have a question about Kane.
About who? Kane, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you think that Kane needs a title shot since he hasn't held a title in God knows how long?
I think no. I think Kane is good for what he does. I don't think he needs the title. Remember, he was the ECW champion, so he has held the title in 2009.
And let's face it, I think Kane's best days are behind him. I don't think he's a main eventer anymore. I think he's a great guy, let's say, for I'm going to use Dolph Ziggler because he's on SmackDown with Kane. If they wanted to elevate Dolph Ziggler again, they'd put him in a program with Kane and let Kane help him get over.
He's a big man enhancement. Kind of like Khali, really. I mean, Khali he's not meant to be taken as a serious wrestler, but he's there as JR put it, kind of a sideshow type thing.
Well, yeah, it's just someone to beat up. Just to come in and beat up. Storylines are kind of thin with him. He's wrestled WWE
everybody.
Long time. Yeah. It's been a long
and the thing with Kane, too, is like Dave mentioned with Daivari, Kane's a smart guy, too. And Kane, has made his money, and he's held on to his money.
He's also never lost his spot. What I mean by that is Kane's always been a monster heel, or even briefly, I think, a bit of a tweener character. But even during the Katie Vick stuff and all that crap he's been put through, he's pretty much been the same character. So, kudos to Kane on that. I got no problems with it. But I think he's in a good spot right now. If they need to elevate somebody into a monster role for a major storyline, Kane's the go-to guy for that. Well, Glenn from Orlando, thank you very much for that phone call. And, again, thanks for your patience being on hold. Let's go now to Martin in Minnesota, who wants to talk about the holidays. Martin, you're live on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Martin.
Hey, happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you.
And my question holiday-related question was that a little hypothetical question. If you can give if you had a Christmas gift list, you can give anything to anyone in the professional wrestling, what would it be? Humorous, to serious, a single wrestler, to entire professional wrestling, what would it be?
Wow. I can't say I was ready for that question.
I would give Sheamus the fans patience.
Yeah.
I got a couple of good ones. First, once CM Punk gets out whatever doghouse he's in, give him a soapbox to stand on to preach his word of straight edge.
All right.
There you go.
And then secondly, I'd give Alicia Fox
time. Number?
Huh?
She has it.
Well, I'd give her time to train with whoever trained Kurt Hennig so she could really bump like him.
Well, now. Wow.
Well, that means she'd have to go find Vern Gagne, and he's too busy throwing around old people in nursing
Stop,
homes
Dave.
right now.
Dave, here we just had a conversation between shows about stuff like that. Don't do that.
Martin, unfortunately, we are running low on time. Interesting comment. And well, actually, after we take this time out, we will give you our wish list as well. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. We're live Tuesday, December 22nd. Thank you for listening all over the world and here in southeastern Wisconsin. Let's continue on the phone line. And I think our next caller is from New York City or New York. Marcus, you want to talk a little bit about Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle. Marcus, you're live on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey, guys.
Marcus.
Hey, I got two questions. I don't know if we'll get to both of them, but I got two questions. First one is, how big of a star do you see Najee McGinnis being for TNA?
Desmond Wolfe, especially if you saw the pay-per-view this past Sunday or his match with Daniels on last Thursday's Impact, or his work with Angle even before this past Sunday, he is a tremendous athlete, a very good heel. He's good on the mic until he says hungry like a wolf, but hopefully somebody wrote that for him. I think his upside is tremendous, and I'm happy to see him on a national wrestling front.
Because I was watching some old ROH stuff, and when the fans turned on him in ROH, his promos were a thing of like beauty. I don't argue over promos that much, but he's a mouth. He speaks very well on the mic. It's real impressive, and his ring skills are next to none. And
you talk about mic skills. I'm sure you've been exposed to CM Punk's days in Ring of Honor as well, where he would just cut it up on the microphone each and every chance he got.
Yeah, and I don't think TNA will filter Desmond's, talking capacity when now that he's on TNA, even though he's hungry like a wolf. But, he can come up with good stuff when he can.
Mm-hmm.
And my second question is, with the recent Jeff Jarrett return and, telling the truth about everything that's happened on air, where do you see that going?
I think that's going to be the hot angle of 10 starting up right now. You know what? That actually grabbed my attention. But as you'll hear us discuss later on in the coming weeks, it could have been done a lot better.
I think Kurt Angle's going to be back on TV in the next couple of weeks.
Wow.
Marcus in New York. Actually, we're out of time. Feel free to give us a call back later. Sorry about that. Still to come on the Pro Wrestling Report. We talk about Bret Hart's return to WWE. Also, more discussion on Raw and Impact from last week. And this is Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks. You see it, KYJ. Things have changed just a little bit since the last time you were here.
I think you should see your oculus. Nothing wrong with my feet. I'm talking about your eyes.
I can even make my ass do tricks. Watch this.
You have any idea where you are? You're in the jungle, baby. This is WCW. That's right. Hold on.
For over 10 years, the world's #1 source for professional wrestling news and information. And once again, here's your hosts, Damian Nelson, Frank Cosentino, and the man they call Meathead. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report. It's time for Hour 2. We're live Tuesday, December 22nd. Thank you for all of our phone callers from the first hour of the show, including our guest, Shawn Daivari. And let's continue with the phone calls. We got to get to the information here sooner or later, but our callers are very, very important to us, and you can be one of them. The number 276-ESPN or all over the world at 1-800-990-ESPN. Let's go now to Dan from Illinois, who wants to talk about the Hitman, Bret Hart.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Hey,
Happy
Dan.
holidays.
Happy Festivus.
Actually, Seinfeld's on right now. It's funny that you said that.
Well, Seinfeld is funny, but go ahead, Dan. What's up?
I'm excited about Bret Hart coming back. I actually have two ideas. I want to run this by you really quickly. One, I was wondering what do you guys think of him joining up with the Hart Dynasty and having CM Punk possibly joining the Hart Dynasty as like a Brian Pillman type character in the Hart Dynasty. What's your thoughts on that?
I think I don't know. You know, the thing they got going with CM Punk right now is he's going to be leading the straight edge revolution. I mean, he's already got, what is his name, Luke Gallows now, the old Festus. I mean, I think he's going to actually bring in another guy to make straight edge. It might be interesting. I don't see it happening, but the Bret Hart thing going with the Hart Dynasty, that's very likely. Very, very likely.
From what I've been hearing, that he's going to have a face-to-face off with Vince McMahon on January 4th.
Bret? You know,
okay.
Here's the thing, though. If Bret Hart comes back with the new foundation, Bret's the babyface.
Right.
So you're telling me that they're going to turn the new foundation babyface?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, that's not going to be easy to do.
Dave Hero just crushed your dreams, man, and that's not right.
No, that was one of two options.
You're right.
And two, with the CM Punk thing, you know, talking about that group, what do you think of them bringing Jesse into that fold and having Jesse and Festus together? And, you know, CM Punk saying that he saved Jesse from all that rap stuff and maybe even saving Matt Hardy. And they could have a group.
I don't think anyone cares enough about Festus for them to want to bring back Slam Master Jay.
No, we know nobody cares enough about Festus for them to bring back.
I mean, you know, it's great for, CM Punk right now. I mean, I think he's in the right program for himself. But,
that's a different opinion, Dave, than we've had about CM Punk specifically. You were just talking about the fact that he's been kind of doing nothing.
He's been useless lately.
Yeah, you said that since he walked into the Undertaker wall.
No, he didn't walk into the Undertaker wall. He was being disrespectful to the Undertaker.
Yeah, but I'm talking about TV-wise.
Right.
You know?
I mean, what they're doing with him right now is a way to rebuild him, where he means something.
Yeah, you're right.
But he's still nowhere near where he was 6 months ago.
And like I've said consistently, and we've said on this program, about you're on TV every week. So you're doing something. I mean, Punk is doing something.
Well, he's on SmackDown.
Doing something, though. You're right.
Losing matches.
Dark matches.
Would he get as much TV time on Raw?
No. He'd be ECW champion, which he already was.
So. Thank you, Dan from Illinois, for that call. Let's go now to Eric from New Jersey. He wants to talk about Jack Swagger versus John Cena from this past Monday night's Raw. A very long and surprisingly good match. Eric from New Jersey, you're live.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey,
yeah, first off, I want to say that was probably the most bizarre Monday Night Raw I've ever watched. And that's saying something with some of the segments they put on lately. But it was definitely one of the weirder Monday Night Raws. But at all the weird segments they had, I really thought, I don't know if it's that there's so many 1 and 2 minute matches on Raw lately, but that match felt like a pay-per-view quality match. And it kind of made me wish that Jack Swagger was the one with the belt around his waist right now. And I was just curious to see what you guys thought of that match. And did you think it was maybe a little better just because of all the bad matches we've seen on Raw, or was it really that good of a match, you know?
Hey, the best part about Raw last night was Mae Young. And Dusty's polka dot. That was pretty good. I'm shocked at how long that match went and how good of an opportunity Jack Swagger had to have a big-time match on the big show Raw. I'm not sure the last time we saw Swagger on Raw. Let's not forget that point. But it was well done, I thought, and you got to give Cena props, you got to give Swagger props, and you got to give WWE props for having that match go basically from 8:45 all the way through about 9:10, 9:15, the big power hour on Raw, or the power quarters on Raw. I thought it was very well done. I'm very, very satisfied with it.
I've been a big Jack Swagger fan for quite a while, and the last time he had a really solid match was the last time he wrestled with John Cena.
Which was the second of 2 weeks in a row. Remember, he wrestled Cena 2 weeks in a row, and then there was kind of that big gap where he wasn't going to lose any matches, and he finally lost the match.
Well, I'm talking about the time when he was ECW champion, and he wrestled John Cena. I think that was during the draft.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And that was a great match. I mean, Jack Swagger can go. He's a competitor. He's a great wrestler, performer. He has to work on his promo skills. But I've said this before many a times. There's going to be a WrestleMania headline between Jack Swagger and Sheamus. Those are the two guys that are eventually going to be
versus each other or
versus
involved?
each other.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, though. The Jack Swagger John Cena match that we saw last night. I mean, I guess we're so used to the 2-minute girls or divas or chicks matches that we have. But honestly, when we have that, as Damien calls it, the power quarter hours, and we talk Central, by the way, around here from 8:45 to 9:15. Those are usually where they have those matches anyway. I mean, they usually start at about 10 minutes to the hour and end about 5 to 10 minutes after the hour. And there's always at least 1 to 2 commercial breaks in there, and then we get these little fluff matches afterwards.
And look how that match was booked. How the finish went. Jack Swagger beat himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was going in for the kill on John Cena, and he missed. John Cena didn't beat him, but Swagger beat himself, which in a way, if you watch the match that way, it does keep Jack Swagger strong and elevates him at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank you for that call, Eric from New Jersey. Let's quickly go now to Anthony in California, who wants to talk about John Cena and Kurt Angle.
Hey there, guys.
Hey there.
Actually, I was just talking about the whole Cena thing. He's not going to lose a match until he wins the belt.
Oh, go right ahead.
I don't believe that means he's automatically going to win the belt, because I believe he might just win the match next week, but by DQ. So same as keeps the belt.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, that is true.
But one way they can go like this is that he keeps the somewhat undefeated streak all the way up to WrestleMania, so he goes against The Undertaker. So it'll be like the WrestleMania streak against Cena's somewhat streak.
Yeah, but I don't ever see Cena beating Undertaker.
Oh, neither do I. I'm a fan of Cena, but I'd rather have the Taker winning.
John Cena loses next week to Sheamus.
Loses or wins
by
DQ or count out?
The belt.
Loses.
Sheamus the belt.
Beats John Cena next week on Raw.
And one more thing, David Hero saying that WrestleMania will be headlined by Sheamus and Swagger. I think he's been dipped into the eggnog already.
Well, I didn't say this year. I'm saying at a future WrestleMania.
You said 26 last week, I believe, David.
Was it?
Yeah, you said it.
I was a little shocked on last week's TV.
I said that 26 is this year. I said it'll be Sheamus versus John Cena at WrestleMania. I didn't see Sheamus versus Swagger at WrestleMania.
All right.
But another way that they're doing this is saying, like, now all these younger guys are going to go against Cena, and they're like, who's going to be the one to beat Cena? Who's going to beat him? Like, they mentioned it against Swagger.
I don't think the Cena streak's going to be worth that much, to be honest with you.
It's going to end next week. Here's the thing. Sheamus has to beat Cena because Cena keeps saying, I'm not going to lose again. What better way to get more heat for Sheamus but to beat John Cena?
And Sheamus still has the marks on him from the table match. You see, he's got one on the back, one on the front. And when you're transparent like that, those things really show up.
And this is a sunburns.
Yeah, sunburns. Yeah. But, I mean, for Sheamus to get some street cred, I guess, is what, the IWC wants, he beats him next week.
You mean to earn his spot?
No, he already has his spot.
But
he earned it.
We know he earned it, but I'm saying there's some that still think he doesn't belong there.
And what better way to get this thing going and throw a little more, gas on the fire than to have Sheamus go over on John Cena next week?
Thank you very much for that phone call. Some insightful conversation from our listeners all over the world. We are going to take a time out. When we come back, more of the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
For the latest interview.
Vintage Fish.
Did you just say that?
It's Vintage Fish. The 1, 2, 3 Kid. It's almost like his very own theme song. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Tuesday, December 22nd. Thank you very much for joining us wherever you are listening to us, whether it be in your vehicle, at home, or all over the world, streaming online at ESPNMilwaukee.com and PWRshow.com. Gentlemen, let's talk about TNA Turning Point this past Sunday on pay-per-view. Brand new Knockouts champion crowned in Terra. And David Hero, you have an interesting point to make as it pertains to that matchup.
Well, it's two interesting points. First of all, they never should have taken the belt off ODB because I think it gives Terra more credibility to chase the Knockout as being the former diva.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just once again shows that anyone that comes in from the WWE always comes in and then beats the TNA champion. But then if you think about it, okay, January 4th is coming up pretty quick. So if they're going to have, an increase in viewers you got to figure that they want to have people that the other wrestling fans are going to recognize.
Smart.
So that's why they put the belt on Tara, because as popular as ODB is,
bam!
You know, Tara Victoria has a far larger fan base worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she did become the new TNA Knockouts champion in that matchup. The only title to change hands that night of the three that were defended, the other being the TNA World Tag Team Championship, a surprisingly good match between the British Invasion and the Motor City Machine Guns. British Invasion able to retain the TNA World Tag Team Champions. And, gentlemen, the question I have is, one man in this matchup is continuing to impress me, given where he came from in his early days in TNA, and that would be Brutus Magnus. He ain't great, but he's leagues further ahead of where he was when he came in with the, I don't even know what the gimmick was, like a Jason X kind of thing.
No, he wasn't.
He was a gladiator.
He was a gladiator. He came in with like a half a shoulder
futuristic
pad.
gladiator.
He looked like Mel Gibson in The Road Warrior. That's what he looked like. Or like Finlay when he first started. Remember the pictures I showed of Finlay when he first started?
A good match to open up the card for the TNA Tag Team Championship. Also, Feast or Fired, we talked about that earlier. Getting the Fired briefcase was Sheik Abdul-Bashir. The tag team shot was Kevin Nash. More on that in a minute. The world title spot going to Samoa Joe, and the X Division spot
going to
a member of the British Invasion, Rob Terry.
Big Rob Terry. Damian Nelson's.
What would you
next
guys
big
do
thing
if Rob
for
Terry
2010?
beat the Amazing Red?
Damien will jump in joy.
I could see it happening, though.
I think that should be our next interview when he becomes X Division champion. I think we need him on this very program.
I'm also looking.
Damien is silent.
I'm also looking forward to Kevin Nash's tag title match.
We could see it as soon as 2 weeks from now. The big rumor out there that Scott Hall will be a part of that January 4th Impact, and quite frankly, I like the way they're heading with this. If that is the case, he's got to defend the tag team title, but keep in mind, or he's got to get a chance at the tag team championship, but keep in mind he is aligned with, or a member of now apparently, World Elite, so he could use any one of those guys as well. But a very eventful Feast or Fired matchup this year, I think. There's a story surrounding just about everybody, I would say the least of which being Samoa Joe getting that world title shot, because there's nothing really new to
boring.
that.
That was useless.
I don't understand the X Division pick. I mean, somebody's really got to do some convincing as to what sense that made.
Damien, you should be the one doing the convincing. You've been on this guy's tip for about 6 months.
I believe if you listen to every show we've done over the course of the last 11 years, you will never, ever hear me having been on his quote-unquote tip.
Can you guys imagine, though, if he does win the X Division title? I mean, it really wouldn't surprise me considering it's TNA. I mean, really think about it.
You know, there was a spot that Jericho and Show used at TLC to get the belts hanging from the middle of the ring. I could see Big Rob Terry doing that with somebody else. You know, just I could see him doing it in an X Division, an Ultimate X. Hey, go up there and get this belt for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, Rob Terry, next big thing, he could walk out the X Division champion.
Damien Nelson was the first to call it in 2009.
Team 3D teamed up with Rhino and Jesse Neal to go up against Hernandez, who had the first 5 minutes alone against that team, and his teammates of Matt Morgan, D'Angelo De Niro, and Suicide. Winner and sole survivor, I guess you can use that term, was Matt Morgan. This match also entertaining. Team 3D, you know, I'm not sure if their day is still upon
The
us.
Team 3D Wrecking Crew. And what do you guys, let me throw this out at both of you and you guys in the chatmosphere and out on the phone lines. What do you guys think of the look of Jesse Neal? Now, right now, I don't think he's offering anything as far as wrestling, but
I think he's got a great look.
I think his look is okay.
No, I mean, now I know why he was covering up those baggy sweats.
Yeah.
Because he's just freaking ripped underneath, and he's got an amazing look. He, if used right, Jesse Neal has potential to become
Absolutely.
a star.
He's got charisma.
Absolutely.
He's got charisma as well, and I don't think it's been completely utilized yet, but you can just tell by his demeanor and the way he carries himself and the way he performs that
I think he's come a long way so far since he came in as Rhino's buddy that he was going to train.
Bubba and Devon, they're not going to just take anyone under their wing.
Well, who else have they taken under their wing, though? Gentlemen, we were just talking about, correct?
Big Rob Terry?
Sheamus?
Rob Terry.
Did they?
Didn't he come from Team 3D school?
No, he's legitimately from overseas.
All right.
Come on,
trying to grab onto something.
Well,
Grab onto this. When he becomes X Division champion,
I'm
called
still
it.
not going to be a fan.
You called it.
I didn't call anything.
You know what? It's hard to embrace Rob Terry.
Well, he's too big. You can't get your arms around him.
He is, put it this way, if he was around in the 80s, Vince McMahon would have made him world champion.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the look that Vince liked in all those guys.
Yeah.
That matchup, again, Matt Morgan seemingly getting back to a place near the top of the card as he was able to survive that match almost alone, as most everybody got eliminated in pretty quick fashion up against the Team 3D Wrecking Crew. Matt Morgan comes out looking very strong in that matchup, guys.
And he should. I think he should. Well, Dave Hero obviously has a differing opinion, but I think he should. I think Matt Morgan, again, is probably going to be, you know, we're going to be talking about this in the next couple months. He's going to be a Hogan guy. That's going to be a guy that Hogan likes and is going to put up, you know, near the top of the card.
Why do you say that?
Gladiators. The Hogan-type guy. Where
the canceled show of the American Gladiators?
Hogan was over there. Morgan was over there. Morgan has the charisma and look, like you just said, a Vince McMahon look-alike from the 80s that would be pushed as champion.
I don't know if Morgan is ready for that yet. You know what? He
got his first chance.
Physically, he's amazing. I don't know if he is ready for it.
Mentally?
No. I don't know if he's ready for the theory of it yet.
I mean, like wrestling theory, you know, more than a 5-minute match theory?
Yeah, I mean, because you got to figure, he's going to be, if he goes straight to the top, it's Kurt Angle, it'll be Jeff Jarrett, Mick Foley, Sting, Hogan, Nash, let's say Scott Hall. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Guys that all mentally.
And I'm not going to put guys like AJ Styles in there, even though he will be there.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys I just mentioned can do a little bit. It can get a larger reaction without all the high spots.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Matt Morgan.
You're talking about classic wrestlers.
80s, 70s style wrestling, where a scratch, you know, when they would take their nails and scratch the guy's back, the crowd would go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
a rake of the back.
Exactly. And I don't know if Matt Morgan is ready for that yet. I don't know if he's matured for that yet, to be put in that spot to work with those guys.
But do you think that there's any wrestler of that age and maybe that age group that's going to ever be mature like that? I mean, again, all wrestlers are brought up now to be spot guys. Who's really getting taught ring psychology?
Sheamus.
Triple H is a ring psychologist, that's for sure.
Guys like Drew McIntyre.
Well,
the guys that no one likes right now, but if you really look
because
at it,
we've been beaten down mentally as wrestling fans,
and you watch how these guys wrestle, they have theory. They, you know, they tell a story during their match. They don't need to do, you know, and this is no disrespect to Jeff Hardy, a swanton to get it, you know, to have something memorable.
You're right.
Last man standing, Scott Steiner versus Bobby Lashley. Now, this one, here's the one problem I had with this situation. They came out of, on last Thursday's Impact, they, you know, were talking about the whole Dixie Carter, Jeff Jarrett, Kurt Angle thing, and they came out of it, and so we're talking about, you know, how heinous it was, things Scott Steiner had been saying and doing about Crystal Lashley, Bobby's wife. Well, Crystal in this matchup was sent to the back early on by Bobby, I believe it was. She would appear later on and power take the stick, the iron pipe, out of the hand of Scott Steiner and use it.
All 110 pounds of her.
And use it on Scott Steiner to have Bobby Lashley get the win in the matchup. This match better than I expected, but still a Bobby Lashley match.
But still the Scott Steiner match, but that means Scott Steiner on pay-per-view apparently does the Frankensteiner. So
Steiner, I gave Steiner props for this a long time ago. When challenged, he steps up.
Mm-hmm.
When the fans especially start challenging him, he steps up, and he can still do it. And you hear a lot about the pain that he's in and the condition his body is in. That goes away, and he will continue to deliver the product for the fans out there. Like it or not, you got to give the man props for trying.
And that's a thing that he hasn't gotten credit for in a long time, is actually being an entertainer that's delivering for the fans. Because, honestly, when was the last time Scott Steiner was a face? With the exception of the really nasty, what was it? It wasn't a flesh-eating virus. What did he have on his back that really tore up his back down in Mexico? And his brother Rick Steiner, and the two of them were standing in the middle of the ring.
I thought he punctured his lung in Puerto Rico.
I think that's what it was. Not Mexico. It was Puerto Rico. But that was the only time I remember. That's the only time I remember Scott Steiner being a face. Next
matchup was made into a Foley's Funhouse Rules match. It was a team of Abyss and Mick Foley versus Dr. Stevie and Raven. The winners of that matchup were Abyss and Mick Foley. Hopefully that angle has come to an end, and seemingly so, with Kurt Angle getting involved with the Hulk Hogan storyline coming up in the next few weeks. 3 Degrees of Pain, one of 2 main events, Kurt Angle versus Desmond Wolfe. The first match, standard wrestling match. Second match, submission match. Third match, cage match. Desmond takes the first fall. Kurt Angle takes both the second and third fall in what was an absolutely tremendous professional wrestling match. These two, and Kurt Angle, same situation as Scott Steiner. The man is in pain, and he has put his body through a tremendous amount and still goes out there and over-delivers every chance he gets. He did so against Desmond Wolfe in this best 2 out of 3 falls matchup, which wasn't overbooked, wasn't overdone, was a one-on-one contest, and they put on what I thought was a wrestling classic.
I think TNA is going in the right direction with this. I mean, and I mentioned this off the year before, TNA needs momentum going towards January 4th. Mm-hmm. And right now, their 2 main events at their last pay-per-view was amazing. Great wrestling.
Are you changing? Are you kind of turning the tide on Foxy Roxy, as you call him?
No, not yet, because
Desmond Wolfe is what we're talking about.
He hasn't won the big match yet.
But he said in his promo, I don't need to win the big match.
Well, he's going to have to.
Eventually.
Because when you keep,
You're right.
No, he's going to have to do it quick, because here's what's going to happen. In 2 weeks, Hulk Hogan's going to be in charge of the show. Everything can possibly change then. Desmond Wolfe may be knocked down a few pegs, and Hogan may not like what he sees with him and says, hey, we're going in a completely different direction. I wouldn't be surprised to see Hogan show up on TNA and strip everybody of the belts and start over fresh.
Nitro Reborn.
Absolutely.
And then he'll go into a program with Kidman.
The main event was the TNA World Championship matchup, AJ Styles versus Daniels. And before this match, we saw Samoa Joe tease that he was going to cash in that world title shot briefcase tonight. As a matter of fact, all during the matchup, he was tweeting, was Samoa Joe, about when he should take his spot and basically doing commentary on the matchup. Another tremendous wrestling match between AJ Styles and Daniels. The winner was AJ Styles with the Styles Clash off the top rope for the pin and the win. AJ Styles still the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. 2 tremendous wrestling matches to end that pay-per-view, TNA Final Resolution, last Sunday. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. When we come back, we're going to talk about WWE Raw and TNA Impact from last week, and also still discussion on Bret Hart's re-signing with World Wrestling Entertainment. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. That's me playing the piano in this.
Fail.
I can tickle the ivory.
Fail.
I'm just a honk. It's the best honky tonk man entrance ever.
WrestleMania 6?
WrestleMania 6.
Who was driving the car?
That was Boxcar.
No.
That was Greg the Hammer Valentine.
No.
Jimmy Hart?
No.
Fail. It's me, DDP.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. Sounded like it, and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Tuesday, December 22nd. You can call us. Be a part of the conversation, 276-ESPN or 1-800-990-ESPN. Speaking of calls, let's go now to a very patient Rob in Syracuse. You're live on the Pro Wrestling Report.
How you guys doing tonight?
Hey, Rob in Syracuse. This isn't Big Rob Terry, is it?
No, but I actually have some news on him. He was actually under a WWE contract back in 2007 to 2008. He was under developmental deal in FCW.
There you go. See? Learn something every night, meathead.
Why did you say my name?
Well, because you learned it was DDP driving the car. And
I forgot it. I got it wrong.
And now you know that he was in FCW.
And I also like to put out there that TNA will be coming to my hometown of Messina, New York. That's up near Cornwall in Canada.
What's the population of that town?
Less than 2,000.
What's your nearest major city center?
Syracuse.
How far away?
3 hours.
Thank you.
Wow. So just think, if they get 10% of the town, they'll have 200 people there.
Oh yeah, I think they'll pull 200. And considering I work for the local radio station, we're promoting it. I'm hopefully going to get backstage on it.
Okay. Question real quick. Syracuse, that's a college town, right?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay.
Well, remember, Rob,
And
he
also-
is not Rob Terry. Rob Terry, he's the one that beat up Shawn Michaels in that bar back a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you said that about a year ago when I called in the first time.
That's my gimmick. That's your gimmick, actually.
Whoa, it was a year ago was the last time you called?
No, I called in 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah, there you go.
You'll know my voice pretty soon.
Okay,
But
you have a question.
yes, my question is, do you think that the show last week, the Johnny Damon, was worse than the ZZ Top?
Absolutely.
I
thought he was pretty decent.
I don't think he was ZZ Top bad, but he was pretty bad.
I think it was worse than ZZ Top, except for the Mae Young.
Yeah,
Mae Young
ZZ
was
Top
amazing.
didn't get a chance to make out with Mae Young.
Johnny Damon looked so uncomfortable.
And I'd also like to say the DX segment was horrid.
That was,
Yeah.
I think,
That's not even the word I would use. But
it was the
I
worst.
can't use the word on the air.
FCC.
It was a little
I know
disturbing.
the FCC.
It was the worst time spent in wrestling on TV
History.
since probably
Katie Vick.
Katie Vick.
Is it worse than the Shockmaster?
Well,
You know
what?
what?
That was funny.
You know what? It was worse than Vince Russo becoming WWE World Champion.
What about Buff Bagwell's mom being champion? She wasn't world champion.
She was hardcore
Yeah.
champion. No, cruiserweight.
Cruiserweight. And Viagra on the pole match was pretty bad, too.
Wait,
No,
that actually happened?
Yeah, that was Shane Douglas and Billy Kidman.
There was a Viagra on a pole match.
Yeah, it was for the affections of Tori Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Rob, what do you have to say about Sheamus?
Sheamus, I think if they strip the belt of him, he loses all credibility completely.
If what?
If they took the belt off of him.
See?
Yes.
That's why
Thank
he's
you,
going to win
Meathead.
this week.
Thank you, Meathead, for listening. I think he should hold it at least till Elimination Chamber just to see how he can progress. After Elimination Chamber, he can drop his belt because there's no way he can draw for WrestleMania. There's no way.
He's no different than Chris Jericho with the belt.
But again, he's not the reason we need him to draw. Whoever goes against him
John
is going to
Cena's the draw.
Yeah.
I don't want to see John Cena at WrestleMania again. I think John Cena should go against the feud against The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I think it might be time to see him go against his training buddy, maybe.
Yeah, well, perhaps.
I mean,
WrestleMania is close, but it's still a long way away. They got a lot of building to do.
Here, I have my ideas in my head right now. You know how we're thinking the Bret Hart versus Vince McMahon? Right now, everyone's thinking that.
Well, they've been thinking that since summer.
I'm thinking, since they've had that little thing with Vince McMahon and Scott Armstrong, they could possibly do the screw job on Vince.
Could be. I'm not sure how much buy-in there would be for that, but they certainly could.
Well, I mean, how many people actually knew that Scott Armstrong's father was Bullet Bob Armstrong, except if you watch TNA, you know that BG and Scott are brothers.
I'd say 3% of the wrestling population watching TV right now.
Exactly, and apparently I'm more than 3%, so...
All right, well,
No, you are 3%, because you're the 3% that knows.
Rob from Syracuse, thank you for calling in. Again, you can be a part of the program. The number 276-ESPN or all over the world at 1-800-990-ESPN. Gentlemen, let's talk about WWE Raw from just yesterday. 3.2 in the ratings, 3.18 for both hours. Solid show on the ratings. Let's just break it down, I guess.
No
pun intended, because we talked about earlier, that Little People's Court thing. Here's the only good part of it. It was a little bit of a tribute to Doctor Who and the TARDIS, because, when they went under the ring and there was infinite space, that's where, they all lived. Like when you walk
another
into the
show
TARDIS.
I don't watch. So
I'm with you on that one, Dave.
You know what the funny thing is, though?
About that segment?
Is that someone actually thought that was funny when they wrote it.
And how much time did they give it? 25 to 30 minutes overall?
Not only thought, this has been teased for weeks. They delayed it, so it wasn't something that they hot shot. Dave, they worked on it over a month ago.
That was brutal.
Oh, it was painful.
I haven't watched it with Cal. I'm like, hey, Cal, you think this is funny?
Our intern.
He didn't think it was funny.
Intern Cal didn't think it was funny.
No.
It was painfully bad. But, they did manage to almost one-up themselves with bad with that Tiger skit. Firstly, here's 3 points about that skit. It was not original. It was irrelevant because we're, 3 weeks into this story? And
But it was a lot closer to the timing than Batista interrupting Maria.
Yeah, but that was an awards show. So that, I'll give them the free pass. The reason why they did the whole Tiger Woods thing was because they were in Orlando, close to his hometown.
They're in Tampa, actually, which, again, is close. But
Orlando, Tampa, it's the same deal.
I'm watching it, and literally I'm trying to pick up my chin from the floor because I'm just like, what the heck are they doing? What is the point? What was the point? Granted, I get it. Raw is entertainment. Fine. Super. I'm dealing with this guest host thing. It's a great business move for WWE.
Last night's wasn't, though.
Well, it was on SportsCenter. They got the coverage. They wouldn't be getting coverage on SportsCenter if it wasn't for these guest hosts. What coverage did they get, though? They had a clip of him on Raw on SportsCenter.
It was.
Nobody replayed the Tiger clip. They probably think they thought of that, by the way.
And the writers are probably patting themselves on the back because they thought it was funny.
Anyways,
I guess the question is the debate: who was it written for? Was it written for males 18 to 34?
No, it was written for Triple H.
Well, the fans were baffled when it happened. I mean, it was like, if it were the week after, probably would have been funny.
But what if you're in the arena and watching that for 30 minutes?
Oh, you're talking the DX thing. And no matter when that happened, it wouldn't have been funny. I think, one of the final episodes of AWA when they had the Turkey Bowl, or whatever the bowl was.
Team Challenge Series?
Yeah. That might have been better than this.
Wow.
And who won that?
DDP?
Jake the Milkman Milliman.
And this is what we're supposed to be happy about on Raw. Maybe they thought it was a throwaway show. It was Christmas. Maybe that's why they kept pushing it off. But it's just painful.
Way too many Santa Clauses, too.
You know what? That was the next point, actually. Sergeant Slaughter, IRS, Dusty Rhodes, Mae Young, Santino Marella. I didn't think it detracted at all from the show, but it certainly didn't add to it. So it gets a pass.
The Jericho Santa Claus was okay, though. Not because I'm a Jericho guy, but it was okay. It was them doing a heel thing, trying to get Jericho back on Raw.
You liked watching Jericho with those rosy red cheeks, didn't you?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, you got me. So busted.
Overall, Raw, your thoughts, Dave Hero?
Thank God there isn't a pay-per-view this weekend, because that would not have made me want to buy anything.
Meathead, your thoughts overall on Raw?
I'm not going to get that 2 hours and 10 minutes back.
Well, it's a good thing you went grocery shopping first.
I know, and I watched it in 30 minutes. No, Alicia Fox still can't bump.
She took a hell of a clothesline from Gail Kim.
She was the best looking of the group in that match, I thought, too. She was owning that aisle.
Hey,
she was owning that aisle on the way down to the ring.
She can walk the aisle, but she can't work in the ring.
And you're telling me this like I don't know that?
She can walk that aisle. Oh.
Well, again, 3.2 was the rating. About 5 million people watched the show, so they didn't do themselves any favors going up against January 4th. January 4th TNA Impact.
They don't care about January 4th right now.
I think they do.
Once they announce Bret Hart as the guest host.
If they announce.
Well, they've mentioned him now 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
He's been mentioned on TV.
Why else would Johnny Damon bring him up? He's going to be there.
Oh, no. No, I agree he's going to be a part of the programming, but I don't know if he's going to be the guest host January 4th.
He is. Hands down.
All right.
Hands down, Bret Hart.
All right.
You're all writing me?
It only took 2 of them, but you got it.
The first one's the free pass.
Well, the big story, and you talked about it, David Hero, Bret Hart has indeed signed a contract with World Wrestling Entertainment. It's a short-term deal. It's going to put him there from just about January 2nd through just about the end of April.
April 10th is his last date, but with the option of rolling it over as well.
I was going to say they could probably also roll that into Backlash.
Well, as long as he's cleared by April 17th, there's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
This is an intriguing storyline for several reasons. That of the unfinished business that Bret has in WWE with Shawn Michaels and with Vince McMahon. Aside from the very tragic personal situation of the Owen Hart tragedy, you've got a lot of actual situations of disagreement between those men I just mentioned. There are so many ways they can go with this, so many things they can do, so many ends they can tie up, loose ends they can tie up. The question is, 13 years later, does anyone still
care. If they do it the right way, everyone's going to care. Because Vinnie Mac, he's going to buff out all the footage from the screw job. I'm sure that the Wrestling with Shadows documentary, some of that film's going to pop up. And I think they're going to tie in Owen Hart into the Hall of Fame this year as well.
Ooh. That's a good play that we haven't talked about before, is the Owen Hart going into the Hall of Fame. But wouldn't that be, if you're going to have Vince versus Bret, wouldn't putting Owen into the Hall kind of mess that up a little bit?
Not at all. Makes it a Hart family weekend.
Yeah.
And let's face it, that's what the wrestling fans want.
We've wanted Owen in the Hall for a while.
A lot of them wanted Owen in the Hall of Fame for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, they don't have that big marquee name to put in the Hall of Fame this year.
Do you think Owen would be the main event name?
Absolutely. Because he was loved by so many people.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because you have to have that main event name every year. Last year was Austin. The year before was Ric Flair. I mean, every year you got a main event name that you have to put in a hall.
I'm not sure they need to, though. I mean,
they need to get King Kong Bundy in the Hall of Fame first.
They've already downgraded the venue. They're not doing it in the arena. They're doing it in the theater again, which is a better move, much better move. But back to the point of Bret Hart, the other option or the other question is, this is a man who as recently as last February said he would never work in a contracted basis with World Wrestling Entertainment. He did not want to be that guy, did not want to be that man. In September, the story changed a little. He wouldn't rule it out, but still gave the impression that there was no chance it was going to happen. This could be really huge because I think, as you said, David Hero, the WWE machine is going to make this into such a tremendous storyline, whichever track they go with it, that the fans are going to be intrigued. And while I don't think the screw job, if it happened any time in the last 3 years, would have been as significant as it was in 1997, there's a great story there. And I would venture to say a better story than Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle over on the TNA side right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, right now, Bret Hart would love to get that street fight with Vince McMahon because there's going to be a couple receipts in that match. It's going to be
potatoed
emotional.
Here and there.
Absolutely, and it's going to be closure for Bret Hart. I mean, I don't know if anyone has read Bret Hart's book that came out about a year and a half ago. It's a great book. It's very good, and you can just feel how the book, as he writes his life story, in wrestling through the 80s and 90s, how it's very happy and it's like a ray of sunshine, I guess you could say. Then all of a sudden, as soon as the screw job, that book goes really dark. And you can just feel the darkness.
Are you talking about dark or are you talking about maybe vindictive?
Dark.
Listen, Bret Hart is he's a big fan of Bret Hart. And Bret Hart has a lot of axes to grind, I think. And him coming back to WWE, being a part of that machine, being a part of that company, I think it's going to be they could have another closed-door meeting before the event and not know what the finish of the match is going in.
Yeah, but is that because you see pure evil in his eyes?
No. What's going to happen?
I've looked into his eyes.
Bret Hart will have his own special guest referee for that match.
The Anvil?
Teddy Hart?
Won't be Jimmy.
What? I don't know who it's going to be.
But somebody that's on Bret's side?
He will absolutely. He is not going to put himself in that same spot again because he's paranoid about it.
Well, a lot of conversation out there about Bret Hart coming back to WWE. Complete coverage at pwrshow.com once WWE actually releases this bit of information, which if he's going to be the guest host on January 4th, would have to be next week, as Timbaland is going to be the guest host. Things are going to get a lot more interesting.
Timbaland, music producer.
The guy with the shoes?
No. Those are Tim's. That's what they call it.
Yeah, but the real full name of the shoes is Timbaland.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
We get the latest fantasy information during Fantasy Sports Weekly, Saturday mornings at 9 on 540 ESPN.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com, and PWRShow.com. Damian Nelson sitting alongside the man they call me Head and David Hero. We're live Tuesday, December 22nd. Special thanks again go out to our guest from earlier in the show, Shawn Daivari. Had a lot to say about his time in WWE and TNA and his future plans which I think caught a bit of us, some of us rather,
Mexico.
a little bit more surprised than we expected to be. The subject of last segment was Bret Hart back in WWE. In April, at the end of April, when Bret departs, if he so does so, what does WWE look like at that point, David?
That's when they go into their draft. And they reset the company.
Time to shake things up again.
Unfortunately for us, we also have a draft around here, and it's just not that entertaining anymore.
What are you saying?
What are you saying?
I love Kelly Holcomb. I know he will start.
Where did that come from? That's like a 5-year-old drop from Fantasy Sports Weekly.
Kelly Holcomb?
Yeah.
Let's talk about TNA Impact from last Thursday night. It's funny. And I think I told you this, David, right after the show. I said the week before, 2 weeks ago, Impact, everybody all over the wrestling community pretty much knocked it as a horrible show. I thought it was a great show. I thought it was one of the best Impacts in a very long time. Last week, wasn't the biggest fan of. Everyone's praising it, saying it was a good show. I was so frustrated during Impact last week, and here's why. You got this red-hot, white-hot angle between Kurt Angle, Dixie Carter, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff's back on Impact, first time in 5 months.
A disheveled Jeff Jarrett.
You're hearing
unwashed.
You're hearing all this stuff about what he has done. Who is this woman he was referencing with Mick Foley last week on Impact? What is the story here? They could have built that so much better, whereas all they really did was have those segments and expect the segments to sell themselves without realizing that 80% of their audience has no idea what happened. That was the frustrating part, because there should have been hints. It should have been talked about after every time they went to a segment with the Dixie Carter or Jeff Jarrett or Kurt Angle, Tenay and Taz, and I know it's taped, Tenay and Taz should have oversold it. That should have been pretty much the driving force behind the show. Nothing. And then Sunday on pay-per-view, no mention at all of that angle. This is really one of the things, along with Hulk Hogan, that they're latching onto for momentum going forward over the next few weeks.
Just wait.
And they're not pushing it.
Wait till Karen Angle pops back up on TV around Jeff Jarrett's arms.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. Again, a lot of times we have WWE and TNA booking to the 20% that are all-knowing of every situation, angle, whatever. Like back in the day, the DDP Buff Bagwell thing, along with Kimberly Page. You know,
that was a shoot.
Well, I understand that, but what I'm saying is...
But that wasn't real. It was real, but it wasn't presented as real. This is real, and it's being presented as real. And by the way, let's not forget which show said this is the way they should go, which was us several months ago. People thought we were crazy then.
They'll learn to listen. People still think you're crazy.
Hi, Sid.
Oh, no. It's confirmed in some markets. Anyways, that was really frustrating to me. I thought they could have done better with it. I thought it would have been a better show. Additionally, they did do some good things last week on Impact.
Lou Ferrigno.
Exactly. Interesting, funny,
awesome.
Unexpected, and sort of out of nowhere. The Hulk.
That was great.
That was awesome. I actually thought it was very entertaining.
And you can thank Mick Foley and Kevin Nash for that because, of course,
they're
being
friends.
at the Wizard World conventions, they bump into Lou Ferrigno.
Hey, you want to do some TV with us?
Daniels versus Desmond Wolfe was a tremendous matchup as well. And overall, your thoughts on Impact Meathead?
Yes, I was intrigued. Again, it was booked for me and you and Dave and not the general audience.
David Harrow, your thoughts on last week's TNA Impact?
I think they are slowly building up to get some momentum for January 4th. Don't know if there's enough time left or not.
Well, there's no Impact this week. Let's not forget that.
Oh, but it's an all-girls show.
Next week.
And it's going to be hot news.
We want to thank you for tuning in to tonight's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. Continue to check out PWRshow.com for information on the show. We'll have a brand new broadcast of Pro Wrestling Report Interactive up tomorrow on the site, PWRshow.com. Then a brand new episode of PWR on Time Warner Cable Channel 14 this Friday night right after SmackDown. Thank you for tuning in. Have a happy and safe Christmas. And this is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.